Hey there, Mikey's crew. It's your old pal Michael. Welcome to another edition of Sports Talk. Sorry this is coming out late on a Tuesday. I know I said Monday it would be out, but with Labor Day I kind of just felt lazy. Forgive me. Also, I totally forgot that the top 25 poll would not be out on Monday. There was another college football game that was going to be played, Ole Miss and Florida State, which Florida State came back and won. So that's why this video is today. And actually, I'm thinking Sports Talk, I'm going to move it to Tuesday, just because that's usually my day off from work. It'll make it easier for me to record and get out actually some more information. This Sports Talk, we're just specifically going to talk about Western Michigan and Michigan, the Mid-American Conference scoreboard, the Big Ten scoreboard, and the Detroit Tigers. But I'm thinking maybe for the next Sports Talk, we can talk more about more of the top 25 teams. What were some of the biggest surprises over the weekend? What were some of the biggest disappointments over the weekend as well in college football? I think we can have more of a more in-depth sports talk if we do that. Just because I usually work Monday afternoon, I'm like trying to get things done around the house on Monday and just trying to squeeze a video in that maybe I feel like I'm rushing a little bit won't be as good a quality, and I want to get some more content in there for everyone that tunes in for Sports Talk. So first off, talking about Western Michigan playing Northwestern, you may have seen the vlog. I couldn't record during the game. It said actually in the handbook, Big Ten policy states that you cannot record during the game. In fact, if the event staff catches you, they will escort you out of the stadium. So the only thing you saw was kneel down at the end of the game. I figured they weren't going to stop me for the last play of the game. So that's why you didn't see any highlights during the game at all. So you'll have to forgive me for that. It was mostly just the trip down and then doing a little recap afterwards. But now we can really give the recap. Western Michigan won 22-21, of course, over Northwestern. Coming into the game, Western Michigan was only a 3.5-point underdog by the time the line was finalized for that game. So it was supposed to be a pretty close game. Everybody, it seems to be, has been hating on Western Michigan, saying, oh, Northwestern let a MAC team come in and beat them. Like, they're basically hating on the Mid-American Conference. Hey, this is not a bad conference. There have been some upsets in this league before. In fact, with Western's win, that's the 11th straight year that a Mid-American Conference team has beat a Big Ten team. There, go ahead and take that. In fact, in Western Michigan's history, they have beaten Illinois at Ford Field, which I was there for. They have beaten Iowa before. They have, they've been competitive against Michigan State, Wisconsin, who they beat before as well. They've been competitive against Michigan for, a part of the game, not the whole game. They've almost beaten Indiana. They've almost beaten Purdue. So it's not like they can't compete against the Big Ten. And all the other MAC teams, they've beaten them. Toledo's beaten Michigan before. So Central's beaten Michigan State. Western was competitive against Minnesota one year. So to say that, the Mid-American Conference is a bad conference, they're not. I don't know why everyone's saying, oh, Northwestern let a MAC team beat them. Western Michigan is supposed to be pretty good this year. They're projected MAC West champions, Mid-American Conference overall champions. In fact, this one of the websites I was looking at during the preview show, they said Western was going to go 10-2. I had said no, they're going to go 12-0. Which we still need to see if that happens. Really, the first 5 out of 6 games for Western are crucial to see if that's going to happen. And then the last game against Toledo, I think games 7 through 11, they could kind of just they're still going to play tough, but they could just. I think those games are going to be a little more easier. But the first 6 games are going to be tougher. This game was tough. I think Northwestern's the toughest defense Western will face, during the season. I think Georgia Southern's going to be the toughest offense they face for their defense to stop, just because of that option attack. And then they got to go to Illinois still, which is being coached by Lovie Smith, former NFL coach. I know it's only his first year. He's going to have his players playing better. These players playing better, but I still think Western goes down there and wins. I don't think that changes. And also, this is the first time I've actually went on the road and seen Western win. I know I saw them in the road game, in a neutral site game over at Ford Field. I saw them lose to in a bowl game over Ford Field to Purdue, also a neutral site game. But the other 4 times I've been on the road, Western's lost all of them. A blowout loss in Northern Illinois, I saw them one year. 10-7 loss to Eastern Michigan. I've seen them on the road lose at Michigan. Although I was wearing my Michigan jersey and Western hat because, I've obviously conflicted because I like both those teams. I went on the road and watched them lose at Central Michigan. Actually, kind of in the same way they won this game against Northwestern. Western Michigan had the ball late in the game, was looking to go in for a touchdown, fumbled the ball on the 3-yard line going in. Central recovers, gets a first down, runs out the clock. Same way here, basically. Northwestern had the chance to win, going in, fumbles. They give the ball back to They give the ball back to Western. They get a couple first downs and run the clock out. So finally, the first time I've actually seen Western Michigan win on the road. And I've also went down to the University of Illinois, watched them lose actually down there as well in a 24-20 affair. So finally, broke through and saw Western Michigan win a road game. That was like the first time in, 6 attempts basically? Because I said Michigan, Eastern, Central, Northern, Illinois. Yep, first time in 6 attempts. Because I actually almost didn't count the Michigan game because I was there cheering actually for both teams, but that's fine. And also, I want to call out Ryan McGee, ESPN writer, who makes the bottom 10 poll during the year for college football, was trying to decide should he put Rutgers or Northwestern in there for their loss, for losing last Saturday. And I mean, we all expected Rutgers was going to get blown out by Washington. That's no surprise. Some people probably were thinking Western will win or Northwestern will win. But apparently he stuck Northwestern in there for losing. And it's like, you know what? Northwestern is not a bottom 10 team. They will be a team that might win 6 games this year, 6 or 7 games. This isn't going to be a 10-win team like they had last year, but this is still a pretty good team. And basically, that's a slap in the face to Western. I consider it a complete disrespect because Western Michigan is not considered a bottom 10 team. CBS Sports has them ranked. They rank all teams 1 through 128 and has Western ranked 33rd after this week. That's some respect right there. I will give that. They didn't receive any votes for the top 25. I didn't really expect them to after this win. But I think it was a slap in the face for Northwestern to be put in the bottom 10 poll. Basically, that's saying Western is not a great team. We'll see what happens at the end of the year. But I think that, like I said, this team has some special talent in them. Now, I'll give you my big recap of the game. Northwestern scored on their opening drive. They methodically moved down the field on Western Michigan using some short runs, some short passes, and went in for a touchdown. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. Because it was an opening drive score, I'm thinking, great, maybe they're going to run away with this. Because Western actually could not move the ball very well against Northwestern early on. In fact, they were able to get pressure on Zach Terrell, hit him once pretty hard. I think Western had 1 first down, maybe in their first 2 drives. But then the defense settled down. They were able to stop Northwestern, force them to punt. Then Western Michigan really controlled the game. They trailed 7-0 after the first. They were able to get a field goal in the second quarter. They did miss a 50-yarder as well. So their kicker, Butch Hampton, which is the new kicker, was 3 for 4 in the day with a long of 47. He did a really good job kicking field goals. In fact, Western Michigan had the ball for most of the second quarter. Northwestern's defense was on the field quite a long time. Western Michigan was able to control the ball, go into halftime, trails 7-6. Got the ball, so at the second half, Northwestern's defense, like I said, has been on the field most of the second quarter. They're still going to be tired even after that rest. Western drove down, got a touchdown, took a 13-7 lead. Northwestern was able to come back, take the lead 14-13. Justin Jackson had a huge run. He had a 46-yard run down the right sideline, actually scoring right in front of us to go in the end zone to put Northwestern up 14-13. Western drove back down, got in the red zone again, but could not get a touchdown. Got a field goal, took a 16-14 lead. Northwestern came back, scored a touchdown, took a 21-16 lead at that point. They were going to go for 2 to try to make it 22-16 to make it a 6-point game. However, they were called for a penalty. then they were forced to kick the extra point instead of going for two. So that's what happened there. Western got the ball back, drove it down the field, got it down to the 1 yard line, and on 4th and goal, Jamari Bogan was able to sneak in. He actually got stopped first and then had to muscle his way forward, but got his way into the end zone. That put Western up 22-20 when they went for two, could not get it. They tried to make it, a three-point game, so if, Northwestern was able to stop Northwestern, they were then going to kick a field goal to tie the game. Now, at this point, I kind of got cocky because this was late in the game when Western scored, and I looked around at Northwestern fans and put the shh signal up. Looked around at them. There were Western fans over on the other side of the field, but there were a few Western fans that were scattered in with us as well. And I'm telling all Northwestern fans, ooh, you got to be quiet in your own home now. And that was a little cocky on my part because there was still maybe 6-7 minutes to go in this game at this point. Or maybe there was 5 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes left in this game. And then Northwestern starts driving down thinking, oh boy, I got cocky, and these Northwestern fans are going to let me know it. So anyways, Clayton Thorson takes a snap. I think it was a 3rd down also. I think Western had stopped them on their first 2 tries. Clayton Thorson scrambles to his left side, and as he's about to go in, Robert Spillane tackles him, and as he's going to the ground, punches the ball out, so it's in the end zone. And it looked like the ball is going to just carry the momentum, and it's going to carry it out of bounds. There's a Western guy right there. If he grabs it, he's going to go down or he's going to step out. It's going to be a touchback the other way. Which, by the way, this player was Javonte Ginwright. Now, I don't know what he was thinking at this point because he grabs the ball, and as he's falling out of bounds, throws the ball back into play, which they throw a flag for because this is like batting the ball. And when Northwestern had a holding penalty call on them, so if he was determined that he's bagging the ball in and this holding call happens, the playoff sets will replay the down. Thankfully, they looked at it on replay because Northwestern had actually recovered this for a touchdown after it was thrown back in. I thought Western had it, but because it had happened all the way down on the other side of the field. But no, Northwestern recovered it for a touchdown. They determined after replay that Ginwright still had the ball in his hand, touching his hand as he stepped out of bounds. So thankfully, that was determined. Western declined the penalty. It was a touchback, and Western took over 1st and 10 at the 20 after that bizarre sequence. Now, we never would have had to replay this. Now, they probably might have replayed it to see if Thorson was down otherwise. They probably were looking at that as well. But if Ginwright had just covered it up, if he had picked it up, stepped out of bounds, he's fine. I don't know if he was thinking if he had recovered it, it would have been a safety. That might have been running through his head. But the ball was in the end zone already. It wasn't like that he was trying to recover the ball at the 2-yard line and then he was running into the end zone. The ball was in the end zone. There was no way it was going to be called a safety. It would have been a touchback. So thankfully, Western takes over. Northwestern still has all their timeouts, so Western has to get a 1st down. So they run on the first 2 plays, and I know at this point they have to pass. If they run the ball, there's no way they're going to get it. It's 3rd and 8. They have to pass this ball. If they don't pass it and they run it, Northwestern calls a timeout. They get the ball with about 2 minutes left. They probably are going to win the game. So they complete a pass to Michael Henry. They get the 1st down, and at this point, Western still needs one more 1st down because Northwestern didn't call their timeout, and if they had just been able to run it to 4th down, Western would have punted it. Northwestern would have had it with about 30 seconds left to go in the game by the time that their offense would have taken the field. I mean, you never know what can happen at that point. 1st down, though, they get 9 yards. They get stopped on 2nd, but 3rd down, they get the 1st. Sigh of relief at that point. Western takes 2 knees. Game over. They walk out with a 22-21 victory. It was so exciting to go on the road to see Western win, and what I thought they would win. Scott Van Pelt for ESPN, he had no disrespect for Western. In fact, he picked them. Mike Greenberg, though, however, thought Northwestern was going to roll over Western. Check your opponent next time, Mike. Yeah, study them up. Learn that they're going to be that they're predicted to be MAC champions. Look at how good this team was and how good they were at the end of last season and what they were bringing back. There you go. So Western now 1-0. They take on North Carolina Central this Saturday. We'll give a little preview of that game coming up. But talking about Western, how I thought they done, I thought Zach Terrell did a good job. Northwestern's defense is tough, so he did hold on to the ball, I think, a little too long, but he only got sacked once on the day, thankfully. I believe that was all he took. And he did rush for 40 yards. He did a good job getting out. In fact, he actually had a 18-yard run that got them a first down on a 3rd and 17. That was amazing to see as well, to keep a drive alive and keep it going. So I thought, Zach Terrell did a good job running. I thought he did a good job finding his receivers as well. It is a tough defense. And I thought Western did a really good job running the ball on Northwestern. They had 198 yards. In fact, Jamari Bogan had 103. Jarvion Franklin had 38. Levante Bellamy had 13. And Tom Flacco had 6. Zach Terrell, by the way, 26 of 36, 218 yards, 1 touchdown. No interceptions. Western did not turn the ball over in this game. Northwestern had that one fumble. That was their only turnover. In fact, this was actually a very clean game turnover and penalty-wise. There were not a lot of penalties in this game either, which, this was a great game to see. Should be one of the best games of the season, in my opinion, although I don't think it will be one of the top 25 games of the season by the end of the year, the ESPN replays. But this should be just the way the game, was played. Almost no penalties, just that one turnover. And just a really tough, hard-fought game, I thought, on both sides of the ball, really. Western's defense, I thought the run-stop defense, I thought, was pretty good, except for that one time when they gave up the 46-yard run. Besides that, I thought they were pretty good. I thought they could be a little bit better in the pass defense. I thought they gave up a lot of passes up underneath. They didn't give up any deep passes, but I thought they gave up a lot of passes, especially underneath in the middle of the field. They got to cover a little bit better closer, so that quarterback has to try to throw it deep, a little deeper, and that gives their corners and safeties a little bit more time to cover the ball. I thought they did do a good job. Their front line did a good job, definitely getting to Clayton Thorson. They were able to pressure him a lot of times and make him scramble to try to find open receivers, and that's how he did find some of them. But I thought, the defense did a good job pressuring him. I thought the O-line did a good job as well for Western blocking. This Northwestern defense was tough, and I think it's definitely the toughest Western will have to face the entire year. And to get that out of the way game one, I think it's pretty good. On the day, Corey Davis led the receivers with 7 for 70 yards. Eskridge caught the only touchdown pass for Western. He had 2 receptions for 20 yards. Carrington Thompson, 2 for 20. Fabian Johnson, 2 for 10. Bellamy had 1 reception for 4 yards. Bogan for 5. Ernsberger had 2 for 22. Franklin, 4 for 30. And Henry, 5 for 37 on the game. And Darius Phillips, he didn't get a chance really to return anything. I was maybe expecting to break a big one today, or Saturday, but he just couldn't do it. Here's what I'm talking about time possession-wise, where Western controlled it. 39 minutes and 4 seconds to 20:56 for Northwestern. 416 total yards to 319 for Northwestern. 27 first downs to 15. Simply a great job. 7 of 17 on 3rd down. Northwestern was 4 of 10. Here's the key stat. Northwestern, 4 of 4 on 4th down conversions. That was excellent. Northwestern was 2 for 3. Passing yards, 218 to 196. Western won that. 198 to 123 for rushing. Western won that. And here's what I'm talking about penalty-wise. Western, 3 penalties, 30 yards. Northwestern, 2 for 20. The biggest penalty for Western was a 15-yard chop block as well, which I think was that time that Terrell may have scrambled for that 18-yard run. So it was a great game to see. I can't wait for him to play North Carolina Central this upcoming weekend, really. North Carolina Central, Division I AA team, or an FCS team as you would call it now. I think Western runs away with it pretty easily. I will say that Western wins this game 49-10. I'll say North Carolina Central does end up with 10 points on the day. But that's my prediction for this weekend. I really think Western overall, I think this is a game really to kind of just work on some things, really. Kind of get a little deeper in the passing game, work the passing game downfield. They had most of their passes were short passes on Saturday, so if they can just work on, maybe hitting the receivers a little bit farther down the field this week, I think that will be great. Run game I thought was solid. They didn't break off a lot of big runs, but they had definitely some gashing runs that set up some second and shorts. So continue working on that. I think though, like I said, for the defense, that the passing game, stop those mid-range and short-range passes. Don't let them get those 5 and 6 yard passes. I would say. I think that's what Western really needs to work on. That's really the preview I'm going to give you, because there's not really much to preview. This is going to be a game where you really just kind of work on things, I think, in my opinion. I don't think that North Carolina Central will be too big of a challenge for Western, although, you never know. Furman was more of a challenge for Michigan State than what we thought, but I think that they won't be that big of a challenge. So to run down your Week 1 scoreboard for the Mid-American Conference, Central Michigan defeated Presbyterian 49-3. Eastern Michigan defeated Mississippi Valley State 61-14. Ball State came back to beat Georgia State 31-21. Here's a shocker. Albany defeats Buffalo 22-16. Toledo defeats Arkansas State 31-10. Bowling Green was smashed by Ohio State 77-10. Iowa took care of Miami, Ohio 45-21. Penn State pulled away from Kent State 33-13. Texas State in triple overtime defeated Ohio 56-54. Akron ran away from VMI 47-24, and also in triple overtime, Wyoming defeated Northern Illinois 40-34. That's your Mid-American Conference scoreboard for Week 1. Let's go to Week 2 let's go to the Big Ten Conference scoreboard now for Week 1 to run down the scores there. Michigan, of course, we know won 63-3, so we'll talk a little bit about that game. I did record it so I could see it when I got home. Indiana took care of business, had a 22-point fourth quarter to defeat Florida International 34-13. Minnesota had 3 players ejected for targeting, but still were able to beat Oregon State 30-23. Michigan State struggled, but won against Furman 28-13. Wisconsin pulled a shocker, defeating LSU at Lambeau Field 16-14. Rutgers was blown up by Washington 48-13. Purdue struggled but won against Eastern Kentucky 45-24. Maryland in DJ Durkin's debut defeated Howard 52-13. And Illinois demolished Murray State 52-3. And Nebraska took down Fresno State with a 29-point second half and shutting them out 43-10. So let's talk about that Michigan game, by the way, defeating Hawaii. Now, I found out I was at the Northwestern game. I found out, because I was keeping track on the score, Wilton Speight threw an interception on his first play for Michigan. And I thought, oh boy, put in John O'Corn. I don't want to see Wilton Speight. I remember seeing him against Minnesota last year. He didn't impress me. Even though he was able to lead them to the victory, most of those yards, though, did come on the ground once Rudock went out. But, thankfully, I'm not the coach, and Jim Harbaugh trusted his quarterback. Speight stayed in. Threw 3 touchdown passes, and then in the second half, we got to see O'Corn, we got to see Shane Morris. We got to see a lot of guys for Michigan on Saturday. Let's just say that. Offensively and defensively, if any player was hurting, they did not play them after that. They wanted to heal him up. So Davion Smith, he went out. He's healing up just fine now, hopefully. But anyways, 63-3, Michigan defeats Hawaii. McDoom, new receiver, by the way. I like that name. He looked good. He got a couple reverses as well. And I really liked their third-string running back, Evans, which, by the way, Jim Harbaugh calls this guy a shining star. He had over 100 yards and didn't even have 10 carries in this game. And yes, I understand you're playing Hawaii, but still, he looked pretty fantastic. Michigan also had a couple of pick sixes in the game. Their defense looked outstanding. This team is going to be a force to reckon with all year. Michigan football is back. And I realize this is Hawaii that they played and they demolished. However, if this game had instead been something like 35-20 we would all be kind of worried. But 63-3, I don't think we see anything to worry about. I didn't see anything to worry about. Wilton knew that he threw a bad pass. He was late with it. He knew that. The first game of the season. And you know what? I'll give it to him now. At the time, I was all upset, but I'll give it to him. First game of the season, you know, you're going to learn. Michigan's going to learn as well. They probably did some things that, you know, they could do better. They didn't let Hawaii have a couple of times where they did move the ball on them. But they were able to stop them. So the thing to take away from this game is Michigan looks fantastic. Offensively and defensively, a lot of teams are going to struggle to compete with Michigan, I think, this year. Once we get in the Big Ten play, the scores are going to be closer. But Michigan is going to have a highly explosive offense and a highly explosive defense, and they've got depth. That's something that they didn't have previously. They've got depth. This team is going somewhere. I said undefeated college football playoff. If that doesn't happen this year and they lose 1-2 games, you can start talking down the road undefeated almost every year, I think, under Harbaugh, to tell you the truth. So let's run through the stats for Michigan, because there's nothing else that we really have to talk about other that they dominated. 35-0 at the half, and they ran away with it. Wilton Speight, 10 of 13, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Shea Morris, 4 for 4 for 45 yards. John O'Corn, 3 for 3 for 16 yards. Look at that. 3 incompletions by Speight, and that was it on the day. Michigan was 17 of 20, 206 yards passing. You want to talk about rushing? 39 carries, 306 yards. This is where Michigan is going to dominate. They're going to have a quarterback that's not going to throw a lot, but they're going to have a team that's going to dash you, and gash you. That's what I'm going to say, dash and gash. You know, kind of like how you fill up, splash and dash, gash and dash. That's what this is going to be right here. Chris Evans, this is what I was talking about. 8 carries, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ty Isaac looked bruising as well. 9 carries, 52 yards. Higdon, 6 for 35. McDoom, 2 for 34. Oh, he's a running back? I thought he was a receiver. Oh, he might be a receiver, actually. Who knows? I like the guy. Davion Smith, 6 for 27. Davis, 2 for 17. Morris had a 14-yard run as well. Chesson carried 2 times for 11 yards. Khalid Hill, 1 carry, 4 yards. That was a touchdown, by the way. Higdon also had a touchdown. So Darboh had 1 touchdown reception. Butt and Grant Perry all had receptions. Chesson led the day, 3 receptions, 43 yards. Darboh, 3 for 42. Stribling and Delano Hill had the 2 pick sixes, by the way, on the day. So that's what Michigan did on the offensive side. You want to hear that? Let's give the team stats as well, just to let you know what exactly happened. 512 yards for Michigan, 232 for Hawaii. Hawaii did have more time possession, but Michigan scored fast. So they outheld them for 5 minutes. Hawaii had those 2 turnovers. Michigan 26 first downs to 16 for Hawaii. Here's a key stat. 7 of 7 on third down conversions for Michigan. And the defense stopped Hawaii, held them 1 of 11 on third down conversions. So how about that? 206 yards passing to 151. 306 yards rushing to 81. 3 penalties for 33 yards for Michigan. 8 for 60 for Hawaii. Now they play Central Michigan. It's the Central Florida, this coming week for week 2. You know, I don't need to do much of a preview here. It's going to be the same kind of game. Michigan's favored right now by 35.5 points against Central Florida. It's going to be the same type of game we're going to see. I don't think Central Florida is going to be that competitive. You might see them put a touchdown, maybe 10 points on the board. I say Michigan wins this one, probably by, a good margin again. I'll say 52-10 Michigan wins this game, I will say. It's hard to say because I'm pretty sure this game is going to be a blowout. I don't think this game is going to be competitive. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be just like Hawaii. Continue to work on some things. Continue to work on the passing game. Try this time to have no turnovers, I would say. Continue rushing. Gashing and dashing, as I would say. The defense needs to continue what they do. Stop opponents in the pass and the run. And force some turnovers. That's really all I have to say for the preview. It's going to be the same type of game. I mean, Next week when we talk about this and we preview Western against Illinois, that's going to be a different story. We'll have a preview for you because it's going to be a good game. Michigan against Colorado might be a good game. That game is more warranting a preview rather than this. So now, why don't we move on and talk about baseball? Talk about the Detroit Tigers. They're playing some pretty good baseball right now. Their pitching is doing well. Defense is still struggling. They're committing some errors. The bullpen shaky at times, but the offensive side, I think they've been pretty good recently on the offensive side of the ball, hitting. The Tigers have. They haven't been too bad. They've been pretty good. Standings wise, they can't gain any ground on the Indians. It seems every time the Tigers are winning, guess who else is winning? The Indians are winning. In fact, in the last 10 games, Tigers are 7-3, Indians are 7-3. So there you go. In fact, Indians broke their winning streak last night. They lost to the Astros. So the Tigers are 4.5 games back right now of Cleveland, and they've still got about 35 games left to play. They're sitting tied at the wild card right now with Baltimore. So let's run down all the standings. Toronto, 77-60, leads the American League East. Boston, 1 game behind. Baltimore, 2 games behind. Cleveland with the 79-57 record leads the Central, 4.5 games up on the Tigers. Texas, 82-56 leads the West, 8.5 games up on the Astros. I'd say they have that one wrapped up. The National League East, Nationals have this one wrapped up, I think, as well. 80-57 record, 8.5 games up. The Cubs definitely have the Central wrapped up. 89-48, 16.5 games up. And the Dodgers, 77-60 record in the West, 4 games up on the Giants, who, by the way, the Giants are severely struggling as well. So let's talk about the wild card standings. Because right now, Boston leads the wild card. Baltimore and the Tigers are tied for the second spot. Astros 2 games back. Yankees 3.5. Kansas City 4. Seattle is 5. San Francisco leads the wild card by a half game. St. Louis is the second wild card. The Mets 1 game back. Pittsburgh 4.5. Miami 5 games back. So let's talk about the Tigers' schedule now for this week. Sorry, I almost, hit the camera with my foot there. I actually wasn't as close as what you probably thought. But let's talk about the Tigers' schedule this week. They are playing the White Sox. They won yesterday. They won a couple of thrillers, really. Sunday, they blew a lead against the Royals. Justin Upton hits a home run to give the Tigers the lead again. That was in the 8th. Yesterday, they go to extra innings against the White Sox. 2 men on. Upton comes up and hits a home run to give the Tigers the lead again. So Justin Upton been pretty hot for the Tigers recently. No doubt about that. Jordan Zimmerman getting ready to come back as well. He's going to start on Saturday. So the Tigers recently, let's go all the way back to when they were, on the West Coast. They took 2 out of 3 from the Rangers, but then they got swept by the Royals at home. That was not a good series that they had against the Royals, especially at home. You come home and get swept. Then they split a series with the Red Sox. Then they swept the Twins on the road. Then they won only 1 out of 3 games against the Angels at home, which I don't know why. They always struggle against the Angels. Swept the White Sox, took 2 out of 3 from the Royals. Now play the White Sox again today. But let's get your schedule actually for the rest of the week so we can figure out what they're going to do or what I think they're going to do here. They got to continue winning. There's no doubt about that. They play the White... hold on. Thing's still loading here. Sorry. They play the White Sox 2 more times. Then they play Baltimore 3 times a week. That is a crucial series, that Baltimore series right there. They've got to at least win 2 out of 3 because with them right now tied in the wild card standings, if they lose 2 out of 3 there, Baltimore is, going to sit 2 games up. Think about it. They win 2, well, they'll sit 1 game up. So they got to at least win 2 out of 3 there. A sweep would be nice. If they get swept, their playoff hopes would start to look a little dire. But after Baltimore, the remaining games, they have 4 against Minnesota at home, 3 on the road in Cleveland, 3 on the road in Minnesota, 3 at home against Kansas City, 4 against Cleveland, and 3 against the Braves. So a kind of hard schedule there because you got Cleveland in there twice, you got Kansas City in there once, but you got Minnesota in there twice too, and Atlanta in there once. The two worst teams in baseball right there. So you're going to have, after the White Sox, which isn't a great team either, you have 12 games out of your last 30 or so, I think, here that they have against teams that are pretty mediocre. Then they play, like I said, they play Cleveland 7 times, they play Kansas City 3 times, they play Baltimore 3 times. Cleveland-Baltimore series, all crucial. They've got to win those games, and so far against Cleveland this year, 1-11. That's got to change. That has got to change. So here we go. Boyd pitching against Gonzalez tonight. Boyd's been pitching really well recently. I'd say they win. Sanchez against Jose Quintana on Wednesday to wrap up the series. Sanchez has been pitching actually pretty decently as well. I say they win. Then against Baltimore, Fulmer, Zimmerman, Verlander. And against Gausman, Miley, and Tillman. Tillman's their only good starter, it looks like, during that series. And with Verlander on the mound, I give Tigers a good chance to win. In fact, in this entire series, I do. Zimmerman might be the one that we don't know because he's coming off the DL. Fulmer recently has been taking some losses, but he hasn't been giving up a lot of runs. He hasn't been getting a lot of run support. I say the Tigers win 2 out of 3 against Baltimore, and they win their last 2 against the White Sox. I think they have a pretty good week, and they go 5-1 overall. I think that's what the Tigers do. We'll see what happens next week. But, Cabrera had 2 home runs yesterday as well. He's now got 31 on the year. I think the Tigers are playing good baseball at the right time. They just need to continue doing it because every time they seem to win, Baltimore and Cleveland seems to win, which prevents them from gaining any ground in the wild card and the division. So this was a long episode of Sports Talk. It could even be longer next week because I actually would like to dive into talking about more around the country, top 25 scorers, and some surprises and some disappointments from over the weekend in college football. So that we'll see, how that goes. It's probably going to be a little longer, so just tune in for it. It might not be as long because I kind of did tell about the Northwestern-Western game in my own personal type story there because I was there instead of just kind of running down the score. So that might not happen next week. We'll see what happens, how it goes. So thank you for tuning in for this really long edition of Sports Talk. I really hope you enjoyed it. I love talking about sports. So if you want to talk about anything sports, post those in the comment section below. You can hit me up on Twitter as well. Those links are in the description below as well. Thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel for more content. You know where my links are. I just said they're in the description below. Drop a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it. Michael out and over and out. Tune in for another edition of Sports Talk next week. Mikey's crew, you guys are the best. Keep tuning and watching my videos. Love you guys very much. See you later.